Hi, Rebecca.
You're right on time, Dr. Campbell.
I was excited about tonight. I had to be on time.
Thank you.
Let me get this going for you.
Okay. It's great to have you.
It's great to be had.
Thank you.
Excited.
Great. Wonderful.
Let's see if I can get my connected here. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Say a few more words, please.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all right.
I wasn't sure how low or how high my volume was. I just put my AirPods in.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Good.
Now, Rebecca, how many people generally come to your meetings, your CRC meetings?
Well, so we have 8 committee members.
Okay.
We try to get everybody. Sometimes there's somebody who can't come, but I'm kind of checking email at the same time. I think, I would notice like a link request, so I sent that out. And in terms of members of the community, sometimes we have a couple, and we don't get a whole lot of attendance. They can see a recorded program. This is recorded, and they can go to YouTube, to Easthampton Media, to find all the recordings from government committee meetings.
That's helpful.
Yeah, so we'll see. And we're being joined by Myra. Hi, Myra. And Margaret's coming in.
Okay. Hello.
Hi, Margaret. How are you doing?
Hey there.
I'm good. Good evening.
Good evening.
Myra, how have you been?
Excuse me?
Myra, I think she's been muted, though. That's how she's been. 1 minute. Okay.
Okay. Here we go.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Deb. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Hey, Myra.
Okay. Hello. Sorry. How have I been? I've been pretty well. As my grandfather used to say, fair in the Midland.
Oh, fair to Midland. Yeah,
Yep.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
You heard that?
In my life.
All right then.
I've heard that a lot too.
That's a reference to the toilet paper or napkin brand, but it wasn't the best. It wasn't the worst, right? It was fair
Did
to
not
Midland.
know that. So now I know the reference.
Yeah, it was like the middle of the road brand, and it was called Fair to Midland.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Well, I'm doing like Charmin Quilted Northern today.
That's above Midland right there.
Yeah.
Changing topic. No, I'm joking.
Just don't squeeze the Charmin.
Oh man.
So glad you're with us, Dr. Campbell.
Yeah.
I'm ecstatic to be with you tonight, Deb.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
And
This is awesome.
is your last name pronounced Lusnia?
Lusnia.
Okay. Eastern European?
It's Polish, yeah.
Polish. Okay. Sometimes I recognize where names ethnically comes from. That's one of my my superpowers.
Your gifts. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my husband's name, not mine.
Gotcha.
So we're getting close to our time here, right? What are we at, 5:59?
Yes, we are.
Depends which clock you're looking at, but
Okay,
yes.
so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 of us out of our 8.
Yes, right now.
So we need one more to be able to start, right?
Okay. Before we start, I wanted to show,
Oh, 1, 2, 3,
we
4,
had
5.
a
Okay.
conversation. I will tell you, Myra, if you see this, I'm going to show it. I got this sweatshirt at at a thrift store in Provincetown this summer, and I loved it, and it fit me, and it was just, anyway. And in reference to our previous conversation, I don't know, Myra, do you know about this conversation about Rebecca and I attending the Undoing Racism workshop? And at the end, Dr. Campbell said, do nothing. This is our advice to you, is just do nothing. And Rebecca took it quite literally. And if I didn't like it so much, Rebecca, I would give it to you, but I think we might be our thing, our motto for Easthampton, just do nothing.
Well, I took it enough to be cautious and reached out to the mayor. I was sure she would know, and of course you would know the meaning. You know, just making sure, and look at the result. This is good.
Yeah. And I actually wore this yesterday. I was doing some gardening, and I thought I should wear it to the meeting. But I thought it would look, you couldn't see it as well if it was on me. So anyway.
Well, today was dress down day at work, so I'm also wearing one of my favorite t-shirts. So here you go.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Okay, so there's 5 of us, and it's, according to my clock, 6:02, so I think we should get started. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll officially begin the meeting. Welcome to the November 9th meeting of the Community Relations Committee. We would like to thank Easthampton Media for recording tonight's meeting. All past meetings of the CRC can be found on our city website for viewing at any time. All committee members and participants in this meeting are gathered remotely during the COVID-19 pandemic under an executive order of Governor Baker on March 12th, 2020, and is extended by him on June 16th, 2021, allowing us to do so. For the benefit of those of you who are joining us from the community, I don't see anyone, I'd like to start this meeting by sharing our committee's mission statement. Our mission is to promote positive relations throughout Easthampton's diverse population. We will work to build a sense of inclusion, community, and pride where community members feel welcome, accepted, and valued. And we'll begin tonight's meeting with a roll call. Rebecca Passa.
Here.
Patty Dougherty.
Here.
Emily Britton. No. Okay. Margaret Kirstein.
Here.
Jan Norman. Not yet. Okay. Myra Oyedemi.
Here.
Gabby Stevenson, I saw an email message from her just before logging on that she's not going to be able to make it tonight. And Deborah Lusnia is present. Okay, so we have a quorum. We will continue. We'll continue next on the agenda with the approval of our minutes from our meeting on September 21st, 2021. Our meeting in October didn't happen as scheduled because we failed to achieve a quorum. So we're needing to approve the minutes from September 21st. Do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of October 21st.
September.
Oh, sorry. September 21st, not October.
Great. Is there a second?
I wasn't at the meeting, so I can't.
Anyone else? Okay, you want to second it, Patty?
Sure.
Okay, second from Patty Dougherty. Any discussion, comments, suggestions for change? No. Okay, so we'll vote. Again, I'll do the roll call vote to approve the minutes from November 21st, 2021. Now, let me think, if we have one abstention, does that? I will say this, Margaret, you are allowed to vote and approve the minutes even if you weren't here. You are allowed to do
Okay,
that.
then I will. I mean, I
Okay.
did read them and, I mean, yeah, I would approve them. Okay.
Okay, so I'll go through the list. Rebecca Passa?
Approve.
Okay, Patty Dougherty?
Yes.
Okay, Margaret Kirstein?
Yes.
Okay, Myra Oyedemi?
Yes.
Deborah Lusnia, yes. Okay, so we have a majority to approve. Thank you very much. Motion passes. Okay, moving on to our announcements. Does anyone have any announcements for the committee at this time? All right.
Let me say this, if not just kind of a detail. In scheduling this meeting, I also previously found there's a move with the city to use Google accounts rather than Microsoft. And it looks like we can anticipate using Google Meet rather than Zoom in the future. And I went and to the ID department this week to be trained on it so that I know how to host it.
Awesome.
And but just fair warning, Google Meets. You might want to familiarize yourself with that.
Okay. And when does that go into effect, Rebecca?
Well, we could do it right now, but we're already set up, so we're good.
So we assume that our next meeting will be Google Meets?
Assuming we're not in person, yeah. I mean, I don't really know. I'm just hoping the pandemic goes away, but assuming that we're meeting remotely, it would be Google Meets.
The next time. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for that update and thank you for attending that training.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Thank you very much. Okay. Margaret?
I was going to say, if I have difficulty, can I contact you, Rebecca, about using Google Meets?
Sure, it'd be my pleasure.
Okay, thanks.
Not a problem.
Okay, at this time, it's an opportunity for the public to speak to our committee, but it doesn't look as though anyone's here. So I will skip that entire speech. That's okay with everyone about public speak. And we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is to hear from Dr. Lomax Campbell, who we are very excited is with us tonight from the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond. And we are really looking forward to hearing about the Undoing Racism series and also his work in general at the Institute. So thank you so much for being here, Dr. Campbell, and I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you so much to the CRC, Rebecca, for reaching out and inviting me to join you all. This is a very exciting opportunity. I've been hearing about your committee now for about a year. And, I knew some folks who were on it, one or two, but it's good to actually finally see more of you. And Patty, I love your chair. It's pretty awesome. So I see someone else is coming in. I don't want to say too much before they connect their audio.
Okay.
And I
This
also
is-
just
Yeah,
wanted to-
Norman, another member of our committee.
I can just say something. Emily is trying to get in. She's having problems with her connection. I'm not sure if she can call in or not, but I just texted her to try and call in.
Okay,
Excellent.
I'll keep my eyes peeled.
Does Jan have a daughter? Because this is obviously a little different name. Does he have a daughter named Yanni?
Maybe this is his
I
nickname.
think
We'll
that's
have
his
to-
nickname. I think it's his nickname.
Rebecca, as you're learning to onboard Google Meet as a system for video conferencing, make sure you're able to record the calls, because I don't remember seeing where does the record button exist, or whether or not you can store it to the cloud or download it to the computer.
Yes, so I did get the training and was shown where the record is, and it's going to be stored on. We now have a Google Drive, by the way. But we should be cautioned. I'm sure that those would all be public documents because we're a public committee. Hi, Jan, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
If you don't mind my asking, is Yanni a nickname of yours?
No, that's what I call my son.
Oh, your son. Okay. See, he does
No,
have
he's-
children. Yeah.
It's that he had a meeting with his college one day, and I think that's what happened.
Leftover.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anyway, lovely to have you here. So, yes. So, Jan, I just told everybody earlier that instead of using Zoom, we're going to be beginning to use Google Meets. We've got Google email now. It's the same email address. And there is a recording capability, and those actually, the recordings get downloaded into Google Drive, where that's shared with Easthampton Media for anybody who cares to know. And Easthampton Media has helped all these committees with all of our recordings.
Okay.
So Jan, we had just introduced Dr. Lomax Campbell, who's joining us for tonight's meeting from the
Hey,
People's
how are you?
Institute for Survival and Beyond. And he was just about to speak to our committee about the work that happens at the Institute and also the Undoing Racism series that both Margaret and Rebecca recently attended.
Okay.
And we've just been joined by Emily as well. It's nice to see you, Emily. So you're just in time for agenda item number 5, as Deb was just telling Jan, introducing Dr. Lomax Campbell. And thank you, Dr. Campbell, for your patience.
Oh, absolutely. I know, we're adjusting to this environment, so you don't want to leave anybody behind. It's important. So first off, I'll just say good evening again, and thank you all for having me here now that we're officially ready to go. I just want to clarify my background. I'm actually the president and CEO of Third Eye Network, a strategic marketing and management consultancy based out of Rochester, New York. And I'm also the founding chairman of the board of an organization called Niche Market Insights Foundation. It's a national nonprofit community wealth building agency committed to closing the racial wealth and opportunity gap. So that's the work that I do. For the past 3 years, up until last Thursday, I was the director of the mayor's office of community wealth building for the city of Rochester, New York, about an hour east of Buffalo, New York. And doing that work, I was doing entrepreneurial ecosystem building back in August 2018 when I was first hired. My mayor at the time, Mayor Lovely Ann Warren, who's the outgoing mayor, said, Lomax, I hired you so you can help our community, who's often not thought about when we engage in economic development activity. Your job is to help them build wealth, and we want you to particularly focus your office on Black and Brown community members who are going into business or just trying to build wealth for their families, and women. So literally, it was a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy out the gate. Well, I started August 6th, and on August 28th, I got an email saying that a grant program that one of my employees had applied to from a national organization called Living Cities. They're funded or backed by the world's 18 largest banks. They gave us a $100,000 grant that had been applied to maybe 2 or 3 months before I started my job with the city. And it was to do entrepreneurial ecosystem building as a part of their City Accelerator cohort program. And so I had to figure out how to program $100,000 in 18 months. And I had been less than a month on the job. And so they flew us out to Detroit in September of 2018 to attend a 2-day kickoff convening. And we had to come up with ideas on the fly on how we're going to establish data systems to track support for women and minority-owned businesses, and how we were going to help them begin doing procurement with the city of Rochester and big business and other organizations that had supplier diversity requirements. And so in working that grant, one of the things that our funder required was for us to go through Undoing Racism training. And I'm I mean, for those who are with us now and who will tune in later to the recording, I think it's not strange to say I've kind of been Black all my life. So when they told me I had to go through Undoing Racism training, I was trying to figure out why, this Black man from, a blue collar, lower middle class family had to get training in understanding, this issue of racism, especially because in my career, I've chaired and sat on diversity initiatives and served as affirmative action, so on and so forth. And I went kicking and screaming in December of 2018 down to Austin, Texas for this 2.5-day workshop. The first half of a day, which was an evening dinner over pizza and wings in the Austin Sustainable Food Center, I was putty in the facilitator's hands. I said, I need to learn from these people, because these were what, growing up in the Black community, we would have said old school folks from the South with an F, S-O-U-F, South. These are elders that command respect, and they've seen things and been through things that I've not yet experienced. So I was excited to go through this 2.5-day training. What was interesting about the training was that we didn't do surface level things. We didn't talk about, what is a microaggression or stereotype threat, and what is diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how do we make the case for diversity? All of the things that you would see in commercially promoted programs. We were talking about organizing and developing leadership in the community around how to organize the people to get a sense of their own power and reclaim their voice and understand the civic engagement process, or whatever other processes that were riddled with structural and systemic barriers, preventing typically poor people from being able to take advantage of resources and opportunity. I said, oh, so this isn't really a diversity, equity, and inclusion training. This is a life training. And at the time, I was with some of my colleagues. There were 5 of us. I was the only Black person. So myself and 4 white colleagues went to this training. I said, this project team alone can't come back to Rochester and undo racism in how we do business development, and how we do economic development, and how we give permits and licenses and loans and grants and contracting opportunities to Black and brown businesses, or women-owned businesses, or immigrant-owned businesses, or disabled veteran-owned businesses. I think you follow what I'm saying. So I said, in order for this to really make a difference, we need to have more of these workshops. And my peers at Urban League of Rochester, over at Ibero-American Action League, who serves the Latino community, over at the RIT Center for Urban Entrepreneurship, over at SCORE Rochester, over in the Small Business Development Center, maybe even some city council members, they need to go through Undoing Racism training. Maybe some bankers, maybe the heads of the philanthropic organizations in Rochester, so we can have a common analysis of how we put up barriers that stand in the way of the very people we say that we're here to serve. So I was able to convince Living Cities to let me take $45,000 out of that $100,000 budget and pay for 3 Undoing Racism workshops in Rochester in October 2019. I had 85 people go through those trainings over the course of 2 weeks. Judges, law enforcement, firefighters, frontline staff who provide small business technical assistance, helping people apply for loans or write their business plan or get into their incubator, 2 city council members, the business librarian in the Business Insight Center, who have to pull market research for small businesses. You get my point. I had these folks go through this so that we understood that so often we want people to do a needs analysis to say, where's the need, before we make them do a proposal and say to us how their solution is going to address the problem. But what doesn't often happen is a power analysis to understand where the barriers are. To begin with, how can you shift the power if you're analyzing the symptoms of the problem and not the root cause? That's what this workshop allows us to begin to see together. to understand that if you wanted to address issues like education, you don't just address the school board. In Rochester, you can't just address the teachers union, but you also have to look at all of the other systems that benefit from broken education systems. And so having that collective analysis of how multiple systems interact to keep things the way they are, I would say is ground zero for any real action for change. So by the time I met Mayor Nicole LaChapelle last September, it was after she saw me in several forums, international forums with Kauffman Foundation and with an organization called SourceLink and with National League of Cities, talking about this work and how in Rochester we raised over $19.5 million in 3 years to support community-based entrepreneur-led economic development strategies. That today there was a press event that my mayor just did, showing that our work out of my former office, we help residents save $1 million through our Financial Empowerment Center. And all of our Financial Empowerment Center counselors had to go through Undoing Racism training so that they understood that even the language they use can be a tool of oppression to low-income families that are coming to them to help with banking access, credit repair, debt alleviation, and savings. And so literally, I believe in the power of the work because I saw what it's done in my community. And when I talked to the mayor, I said, well, why don't we come and check out Easthampton? I need to understand the context. Because another thing that I don't believe in is patriarchal and prescriptive strategies that don't elicit from the very people that are saying, hey, you're standing on my neck, the solutions to their challenges. And so I said, the way I would approach working with your community would be to come and at least spend a weekend, this was last October, to discover the environment of Easthampton and Pioneer Valley and so on and so forth. And in 4 days, and Myra, you know, because we spent a considerable amount of time together between October 23rd and October 26th, in 4 days, 20 hours worth of meetings, I met with the entire senior management staff of the city. I met with Chief Alberti and 3 of his officers. I met with Mo Beliveau from the Chamber of Commerce. I met with Dee Dice at the time from the local Community Development Corporation. We ate at Galaxy. We ate food from Coco's. We walked down Cottage Street. I got tours of the city from Jeff Bagg. And we talked to about 34 people in 20 hours over 4 days of meetings. And I said, in all of these conversations, different stakeholders from the private sector, from the neighborhood, because we met Kenny Lumpkin and his significant other, I'm hearing some common themes come up. And hopefully the CRC received a copy of the Discovery Weekend report. It was a 10-page report that I wrote and provided to the mayor back in December. But it was 4 pages of themes framing the challenges or issues that you all said that you were wrestling with as a community. And there were 6 pages worth of recommended strategies for change. As part of that, I recommended you all go through Undoing Racism training. Well, I ended up being encouraged to bid on a state contract in the state of Massachusetts. And since February, worked with Easthampton's leadership team to work on what now is a 54-page rapid recovery plan, and further advocated for Undoing Racism training in Easthampton, so that it's not just a few people who understand the issues deeply. It's not just a couple people who hold the power to change the reality of Easthampton, but it's broad-based community coalition building, hopefully spearheaded by this body, leading change on a number of fronts. The mayor said, I'm going to host 2 Undoing Racism workshops as has been done. One was in August. The first one was initially slated to be done in July, but we moved it to October 1st through the 3rd. I want to say in the first training, you all had about 25 people, 18 to 25 people go through the workshop. And then you had another 23 or so go through the second workshop in October. The mayor mandated her entire staff go through that workshop, and everybody who was told to go went through it. I know she's interested in hosting more. And one of the questions that came out of the workshop at the end of the workshop is, what do we do next? And Margaret, you got that shirt on you? Hold that shirt up again.
1 minute, hang on.
That's an important asset to this conversation. Just do nothing. And I'm gonna tell you why. I'm trained in ethnic psychology, organizational culture change, niche marketing, and a number of other business and management related topics. I've been sitting on boards since 1996 when I was 13. Some of you are going to do the math, I get it. And one thing I've seen time and time again is when people get a new book, see a new YouTube video, hear a new story about what happened to somebody, they want to jump out and do something then and there. But it's not evidence informed, it's not strategically fleshed out, and oftentimes we do more harm than good. And what I tell people is this country has been around for how long now? People of African descent have been enslaved, oppressed, and marginalized for how long now? The building has been burning for 500 years. We're not going to put the fire out overnight. And so let's take our time and do it right, because we can't afford to do more damage. So now tonight, I'm going to tell you what's next, Easthampton. I have 6 different, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and possibly a 7th recommended courses of action after you go through an Undoing Racism workshop. And it's based on my lived experience doing it in Rochester, and from my mind as a organizational and community transformation strategist. The first one is to do more workshops on undoing racism and other related programs, because 50 people in a community of 16 plus thousand is not enough of a coalition to push for change. That's the first thing. So you need more people to have the analysis who understand internalized racial oppression, for example, who understand gatekeeping, who understand that networking isn't just trading business cards, but literally building deep and sustainable relationships so that when it's time to do some work, you can count on each other. You're building a net that works. The second thing is debriefing the workshop. I told the mayor once we were done with your rapid recovery plan, I wanted to find time, and I know there was also an election season and other things were underway. I wanted to find time to officially bring all of the folks who did the workshop back together for a debrief. What did you learn from it? What are you still wrestling with from it? How has it inspired you? What have you already started to use from that experience? What are you still troubled by? What did you dislike and why? Because maybe there's something going on with you that needs to be addressed, or maybe there's more clarity that's needed. You know, the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond, and I'll color the context here, has developed this workshop since 1980. Baba Ronald Chisholm and Dr. James Dunn, who, you know, rest in peace now, developed this as children during the Civil Rights Movement, who learned how to organize in the 50s and 60s. And by 1980, began perfecting this unique process for social transformation. In my dissertation research, because I was working on my dissertation when I first got to the city of Rochester, I found 31 scholarly peer-reviewed articles on Google Scholar about the efficacy or the capability of the Undoing Racism workshop to help communities make change happen. I found 2 books, one of which even suggested that the Undoing Racism workshop is a contributor to the development of community-based participatory research as a field of practice. That's why I'm a believer in it, because it's not just something that someone threw together and said, let's do it. My relationship with the People's Institute is, I've gone through the workshop 9 times. I keep calling on them to do more workshops. And if Myra eventually wanted to be a facilitator of the workshop, They are old school. Like I said, those are our elders. We sit at their feet and learn from them. So the way they develop trainers, it's an apprenticeship model. You keep going through it. Once you've gone through it, it doesn't cost you anything to go through it again. And over time, you become proficient in walking people through the different exercises to organize people. And then at some point, they'll say, okay, Rebecca, do you want to show us how to, walk us through the power analysis or walk us through the next exercise? And at some point, they'll say, she's ready. Let's put her on contract and send her out to Seattle and send her out to New York and send her into Amherst for the next workshop. And so literally, the debrief of the workshop further allows for the learning and for the experiences to be internalized. Along with that, we didn't get to everything in our 3 days together. For those who didn't go through it yet, Patty, Myra, Jan, we did the workshop virtually on Zoom, and we met from 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock every day for 3 days. And there were breaks. I think y'all got a 45 to 50-minute break. Normally, it's a 2.5-day in-person workshop, but the technology requires us to kind of like break it up a little bit more because people are sitting and looking at the screen. But at the end of the workshop, and if I could share screen, I would show you, there's still different things that we never get to in the workshop that a follow-on workshop would allow you to learn about. For example, the People's Institute developed an anti-racist strategy chart. So when you're ready to go out and organize, you can incorporate their anti-racist principles in your strategy planning. So moving from training to action. You also get a multi-page bibliography of resources. So if you wanted to understand the history of racism, or if you wanted to understand the intersection of racism and Asian Americans, or the intersection of racism and Black Americans, or the intersection of racism and let's say immigrants or Native Americans or Indigenous Americans, you get what I'm saying. So they've curated this list of books and articles and other tools that literally folks can get back together and use to take in knowledge on how to understand what happened to people. Because one of the anti-racist principles for organizing is learning from history. And there's a history of distrust in Easthampton that I don't know that you all are actively learning from. Like consciously saying, what happened to this group of people here? And how are we taking that and not repeating it? There's an opportunity to take advantage of that. The third thing, so I mentioned the first one was more workshops. The second one is debriefs and follow-on workshops that are going to the stuff that wasn't covered in the 3 days. The third thing is caucusing with the community, both caucusing within your cultural group and caucusing across cultural groups. There are some things that women need to get together and talk with other women about that men don't have to be in the room for, because it ain't men's business. There are things that Black people need to get in the room and talk to each other about that ain't nobody else's business. Same thing with white folks. And so often, if you begin looking at this work and our history as a country, white folks see this work as other people's problems and other people's works. But racism has impacted white people too. And this workshop shows that. It talks about it. And Rebecca and Margaret can speak to how that conversation played out, but they don't want to ruin it for the rest of you all haven't gone through it yet. So caucusing intraculturally and cross-culturally comes out of this, because relationship building is the cornerstone of organizing and also learning and development. The fourth thing that you can do is do what we did. We formed an alumni network, the Undoing Racism Alumni Network in Western New York. We came up with that name. You don't have to call it that. In the Pioneer Valley region, there's a group that's been organizing after going through the workshop for the last 25 years. They're out of Springfield. They're called UROC, the Undoing Racism Organizing Collective. And they have a website. That's family. That's my extended family. So you can form an alumni network. What we did was we established a Google group, since we're talking about shifting to Google. So if I email WNY Undoing Racism Alumni Network at googlegroups.com, I will be emailing about 120 people who've gone through Undoing Racism training. We meet every third Wednesday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. We meet to go over the Undoing Racism, the anti-racist organizing principles. We meet to reintroduce the different tools that we went through in the workshop so that everybody knows how to perform them for their organizing work. A gap that I see in most training is that this work is stressful and change is stressful. No organization I've ever been a part of training for teaches self-care tools or group healing tools. So in our alumni meetings, we teach a self-care tool like butterfly hugs. Literally, and this goes into like biology and psychology, and I learned this from the Association of Black Psychologists. If everybody crossed their hands like they're making a butterfly, go ahead and everybody cross your hands, connect your thumbs, and place it on your chest. Take your right hand and tap your collarbone. And then take your left hand and tap your collarbone. And then alternate. It's not a race, just do it casually. You will notice if you're paying attention to your current state that you're calming down. And there's a reason for that. This is psyching you out. This is psychology. What it is the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body. The left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. So when the left hand taps the right side, it stimulates the other side of the brain. The only way you can do this is if you're paying attention to where you are right now. You're not stressing about yesterday. You're not worried about tomorrow. It brings you back to the present. If you're stressed, you'll notice your breathing slows down. We teach that as a self-care tool. Now, if you're in one of these meetings and it grows contentious, I'm sure you don't want viewers to see you doing this later, right? You can cross your hands just like this on your lap and tap your thighs the same way, alternating one at a time. It's like the exercise where you do this, right? You have to have coordination skills to do that. Literally, you have to focus. And so that brings down your stress level. When you're organizing community and people are at different education level and different income level, people see the issues differently based on their experiences. It's stressful. So we teach our alumni network how to manage stress personally so that Myra don't burn out and say, to heck with this, I'm giving up. I'm about to just go work a regular job and leave y'all to figure out the society's problems. We need people to stay in this work because change happens over time. So your alumni network can inculcate those kinds of teachings to sustain the people doing the work. The last thing we do in our meetings is we say who's doing organizing in what part of the community around what issues and what help do you need? And who has capacity to join up with what Patty's doing with her initiative so that we're leveraging our collective power and agency to make change happen, rather than Jan trying to do it by himself or Emily trying to do it by herself. So that's what's next. The next one is collaborating on organizing efforts. So whether it's raising the minimum wage or trying to make access to cannabis licenses available to women and minority applicants, I'm making stuff up. Whatever the issues are that you all see fit as a community to focus on, you collaborate on that. Now that you have some tools and some knowledge and some new relationships to build a broad-based coalition for change. The next one is fellowship. Spend time together. Get to know each other authentically. There's nothing worse in any community, the disabled community, the LGBTQ community, seniors, millennials, Black folks, poor folks, rich folks. There's nothing worse than someone who's not from that community coming in trying to help, and you don't take the time to get to know them, their customs, their history, what they care about, the foods they eat. There's nothing worse than that. Relationships is what's going to sustain multicultural cross-sector coalitions. So you should be doing bowling nights. You should be eating together. Someone should host a barbecue. But I'm not eating everybody's potato salad. Myra, you know what I'm talking about. I'm just saying, relationships matter. And we have to get out of this mindset of check whatever your family's going through at the door, check whatever you're wrestling with at the door, and show up and perform, because that dehumanizes us. That's a part of the construct of race-based discrimination. You're just a widget. And I perceive some of you bring more value than others. And so I'm going to treat you based on the value I perceive that you are able to make to what we're doing, which is why we don't have pay equity, which is why well, I'm not going to get preaching, but you get my point. Relationships breaks through that. And then the last thing is, whatever else you want to do once you have these understandings and these tools at your disposal, you are only limited by your own creativity and courageousness. So see me, see Third Eye Network, see my network partner, People's Institute for Survival and Beyond, and my new friend, Vanessa Ortero at the Healing Racism Institute in Springfield. See us as your partners, see us as, you know, your comrades in this work for social transformation, in any endeavors that you all choose to take on for yourselves. It's why I quit my job, to do this work with communities across the country. So now, what questions do you all have for me? What things can I pull up to show you? Because I have all of the things I mentioned to you behind the Zoom feed ready to pull up, like our strategic plan for the alumni network, or the proposal to fund 4 more Undoing Racism workshops in Rochester, and other tools. Like, what questions do you all have? I like the smiles. That means I didn't bore you and put you to sleep.
I guess a question I have is at the beginning of the school year, I work as a school counselor here in town.
Awesome.
And I saw a book on the principal's desk, and it was Undoing Racism. And I asked her about that. And for me, I was wanting to know, I know the administrators were all required to be a part of this book reading, and I think also the training around that. And I want to know how this might be also impacted or helpful for the educators within the school.
Was it this book that you saw?
I think that's it.
So this book, I'm trying to hold it still here.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those rare out of print books that's hard to get. So if they got it, wow, they probably spent one of those random Amazon prices of like $200 to get this book that would have been like $20 in 1980s. Well, when it was published in 1997.
Or maybe it was a newer one. I can't quite remember, but because I saw something like that online.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll hold it up again because I saw some folks trying to write. This was
I took a picture.
Yeah, this is the only book ever published by the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond about their proprietary program for helping people understand social transformation or social change. Like I said, it's pretty cool. There's a lot of books out there. There's a lot of material out there, and thanks to the internet, like they're from all over the world. I am skeptical, cautiously optimistic, and excited whenever I come across a resource. But it's because as a doctor, I'm trained as a doctor of management. I'm not a medical doctor. As a doctor of management, I'm trained to be skeptical and to interrogate who was the source that developed the materials. What was their background? What's their story? What are their philosophical leanings? You know, what happened to them? What community were they in? If they were in rural America and I'm doing work in urban America, How relevant might it be? But not to say I'm discrediting it, I really want to understand the material value that it brings, which is why I thought that the bibliography that the People's Institute curates is helpful, because they've already screened these things. But you can add to those lists. And I think that that's good. My concern about a lot of efforts around diversity, equity, and inclusion is they often come off as checking the box. You read the book, so now what? Right? We all watched the movie 12 Years a Slave, so now what? And my thing is, when you talk to folks about developing new technology or adopting new technology for something, a good tech consultant is going to say, hold up, before we sell you this, what are you trying to accomplish? And then we can fit the technology to what you're trying to do. But if you don't know where you're going, literally, Jan, any road will take you there. And so reading books are good, but before you read any book, before you consult any resource, you are getting clear as a community what your top 2 or 3, maybe 4 priorities are. What does success look like? Because you all have to dream together in ways that are cross-cultural, right? Across classes, across sectors. And once you know what that dream looks like, that beautiful picture behind Rebecca, you can then say what tools and resources are going to help us paint that picture into our reality. But to do it the other way, you'll be reading books for the next 40, 50 years. And then someone to say, we tried that 20 years ago, it didn't work, stop. That's why a lot of things fail. Or you got one FTE, one full-time equivalent person tasked with changing the situation in Easthampton. We've set them up to fail. You need resources, which is why this committee is so important, because it's not one person. It's a group of y'all. And the more you all can dream together and be that conduit for your constituents in the community to say, what do you all care about? You can bring it back here and you have the ear of the administration. Does that make sense? So literally, that's how I would approach that. Resources are good, but they need to be the right resources to help you advance what you see as the future of fill in the blank. The school district, the police force, relationship with the community, fill in the blank, economic development, think of homeownership, whatever the issue or opportunity area is, you need to dream it before you pursue it, not the other way. Any other thoughts, questions?
I had some thoughts, and I guess my thoughts are unfortunately, I was unable to attend the workshop, so I was a bit disappointed by that.
I got you covered.
Great, sorry for that. But I am encouraged to hear that there are actionable after steps that have been carefully thought out. I didn't know about the after steps, so I think that's a great, to see the trajectory, to see what can be occurring next in the community. So I'm appreciating that. And then secondly, before you said it was in my head, in terms of having the perception of, people are perhaps required, in your experience, if people are required to attend, do you feel as though the outcome is perhaps different than, let me get my wording right.
I understand where you're going.
Okay, so if you're required and it's checking a box for you, is for a particular group staff, are outcomes different? Do you find buy-in is different? Participation afterwards is different? How has that worked, in your previous experiences?
Got you. So those are great questions, and I'm going to bring up a few things. The first one is that as an African-centered man, I am principle-based, not rule-based. The second thing that I'll share is that change takes time. And also that culture is set by the leadership. So if a president and CEO an executive director or a mayor or a county executive or a governor says to their staff, this is a priority to me. This is the direction that the ship is going. Get on board. That is the right thing to do. However, leaders should also say to middle management, to lower management, and to the folks who are on the front lines, what are the issues? Where are the opportunities for us to evolve and change? And those two perspectives should meet in the middle, top down, bottom up. I would also say inside out and outside in. It shouldn't be one or the other. Because relationships are built over time, and I mean even relationship with ideas, not just relationships with other people, but relationships to ideas. The ability to gauge the effectiveness of these activities has to be over time. So I've seen me go from, why do I gotta go through this workshop, to in the first 4 hours, oh my God, this is changing my life, to now that I'm back in Rochester, let me take $45,000 of money that I've gotten from you already that's in the city's bank account, and let me use it to pay for more Undoing Racism workshops. I'm a testament to the change over time of someone experiencing something that had an impact on them. So I think that whether folks were voluntold or they opted in, the folks that opt in is the choir, and we often preach to them. The folks that are voluntold are the people we really want to reach ultimately. And if we can get them engaged over time in an alumni network, in a debrief, in a follow-on, where they can find common ground with the material, with the concepts, with other people in the space, with a path forward that's tangible, they'll come around. But you have to have faith in the possibility that people will come around. That's the answer. Margaret.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, I mean, I'm really thrilled to hear what you're talking about, because I didn't know what those 8 steps afterward would be, and, you know, where to go from here. But the only thing that I could think about was where to go from here was to have many more people do the Undoing Racism. And the fact that I could do it again is very exciting to me as well. But, you know, I think it's just like anything else. It's the power of a group of, I mean, all the facilitators work so beautifully together and we're so good as each individually. And then the participants, it's just like, you know, anytime I've ever been in any kind of group over time or in any kind of intensive way, there is a connection that's made that is larger kind of than the sum of the parts. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I had reflected on was how I was so excited by who was at the training that I was at, because they were exactly who I thought should be there, including myself, but in terms of change makers, potential change makers in much larger systems than I have access to, you know, at this point. So, so I'm thrilled to hear about that. I mean, one of the things that we've kind of been trying to figure out is kind of this forum, and it was kind of based on dealing with racism notions and how to have difficult conversations with community, you know, with each other and other community members, which was great. But I think the Undoing Racism does it so fabulously. For me, I don't want to even reinvent that wheel. That wheel is invented. The CRC doesn't need to go around and find some people to facilitate something. I think we know who can facilitate what we need. I mean, yeah. I feel that way having gone to the training. I don't know how Rebecca, you know, her thoughts are, but, you know, and the mayor obviously thinks that this is an important thing, and that's fabulous. But I just think that I felt like I could talk to different people who were on the city council in charge of different, like the police department, the fire department, different people, the tax collector, the, you know, all these people in Easthampton, that just having been at the training together, that there was an inroad.
Yeah, it puts a face to the person behind the phone call that you made, right?
Right.
So that you can
Really.
see them as human beings.
Yeah,
And you shared stories together.
Yeah, in a much different way.
Mhm.
I had no expectations. I just thought the only thing I can do at this training is just go and be present. That was my objective, was to just be as present as I could be. And with no expectations. And it was a really interesting and heart-opening journey, is really what I could say about it. And until, you know, a lot of things, but, you know, in some ways, trainings like this, you really learn from the other participants
Yeah.
the most.
What's interesting is it's not easy to get an elected official to support something like this, because the positive external benefits come over time. And because elections have cycles to them, right? Folks need to accomplish things before they start running again. And your mayor said, no, I want to do this because this is the right thing to do, period. And I know you all just switched from a 2-year mayoral cycle to a 4-year cycle. And that was the first time I ever heard that. In a 2-year cycle, in my mind, I would imagine an elected official would work really hard for 1 year. And then the next year, they're campaigning. So they're not working as hard. They're still working, but not as hard. And then the next year, because they're in their year 1 again, they're working. And then in the next year, they're back to campaigning. So by broadening it out to 4 years, you get 3 years of work and then campaigning while working. For a person to still say this needs to outlive my administration and it's bigger than me, that's huge. The second thing is, those facilitators all didn't know each other when they came to do your workshop. 2 of them had trained together before for years. Another one had trained in other groups, and this was the first time they were doing it together. They had heard about each other, but it was the first time that they had come together and had that level of cohesion. Huge. Speaks to the model. People's Institute has over 100 trainers all across the country and internationally. And at any given workshop, they pull 3 who are available, put them together and say, you're up. I meet with them when it's my workshops. I meet with them maybe the day before or within a week of the training for about 30 to 45 minutes to say, this is the city of Easthampton, literally Dr. Seuss's Whoville. 16,000 residents, median household income of about $57,000 people, $57,000. Average education level, about bachelor's degree, but a lot of advanced degrees, and only about 6% Latinx, about 2 to 4% Black. Like, I run down the background so they know who they're coming to talk to. And then I say, how did we get here? I'm doing community-based economic development consulting work there, and told their mayor, this is important because you need to bring the community along. You can't do this in isolation the same way you've always done it. And so they said, now we understand who are the people that are going to be in the room. Oh, the chief of police, the mayor, so-and-so, some folks from the local, Black Lives Matter coalition. Cool. Any women? Yes. Any Black people? Might get 1 or 2. Any Latinx? We might get 1 or 2. And now they have everything they need to come into the workshop, literally. And they say, oh, who's going to do the first part? Who's going to do the second part? And then they go. And you experience what you experience. I love that. Absolutely love it. Any other questions?
I'd just like to say, this is all just so exciting to hear, and so awesome to learn all of this. And I so wish we knew all this a long time ago about all this that's going on. But I'm just really pleased and excited to know that this opportunity exists, and all that you're doing and how you're doing it is just amazing.
Thank you so much, Deb. And I'll let the cat out of the bag. I'll be back in your area Thursday this week. My wife and I are staying in Springfield, but we're planning to be in Easthampton for the mayor's celebration on Saturday.
Nice.
So hopefully I'll see some of you there while we're there, and certainly we'll be available to connect on Friday, and we don't ship out till maybe Sunday afternoon, so even may have an opportunity to do breakfast on Sunday. Would love to connect with some folks.
Wow.
But know that I'm available to you. Rebecca has my personal cell phone. Myra has my personal cell phone number. So if you all needed advice, if you wanted to get introduced to other folks, maybe the UROC Coalition in Springfield, would love to connect you all and be
Wow.
a part of your process.
Sounds good.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
And you said that
Awesome.
there will be more trainings.
That's the plan.
Available soon.
That's the plan. I had the ambition in Rochester of getting to the point where we had a workshop every 2 months and maybe get the city to sponsor one of them, get the local United Way to sponsor one of them, get a few of the organizations that support entrepreneurs to come together as a cluster and sponsor one of them, so that every time we did a workshop with 25 to 45 people, there's at least 5 spots for community members who aren't connected to anybody's organizations. And they can send their organizational representatives, their boards, their frontline staff. But the idea is, as we grow the alumni network and get this collective analysis, it can inform our work. In New Orleans, where they were founded, they do a workshop every month. So that's my ultimate vision in other communities to support that. But I see the workshop as a starting point to a bigger journey, a journey to becoming or reclaiming our humanity.
I have one question just about that part. One of the things that's on our agenda for tonight, or that Patty sent out an email right before the meeting began, was that the mayor said that we had $10,000 potentially that was going to potentially get approved to be used by July 1st. And so how much are the trainings? How much do they cost?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I know in talking to Dr. Kimberly Richards, the executive director of the People's Institute, she always tells me, Lomax, we will work with communities because we know we're not trying to get rich off of one community. You know, they're organizers, that's what they do. And so when I first asked her how much would it cost me to bring it to Rochester, what she told me was, if you only do one workshop one time ever, we generally charge $16,500 for the workshop. That covers everything from the 3 facilitators, the flights, the lodging, their transportation from the hotel to the site. It covers tips, gratuities, all of those things. And of course, some goes to the actual national nonprofit organization. But she said, if you do 2 or more, that price drops to $13,500. That ends up being about, it's been a while since I've done the math. It ends up being about $235 or $250 a person. You know, in the in-person version, I've been in a workshop that had 47 people in it. So you divide that into 13,500. It's not an expensive undertaking. It's an investment. Since I've done so many, when I pull one together, it's just 13,500. So that's what I budget for. The in-person version normally has, if it's a half day and 2 full days, let's say the half day is during the day, that normally has like fruit or cookies and juice or whatever for the half day or some snack. The 2 full days, normally, if it's, let's say 8 to 3 or 8 to 4, normally that includes breakfast and lunch. And so normally the organizer or the community looks for vendors in the community that normally don't get opportunities to do contracting. So almost always when I've done it in person, I've looked for Black and Latino owned businesses and women owned businesses to get hired by the city to cater these events. So they get in the vendor system. So I'm practicing and modeling inclusive procurement, and they're getting the revenue. And normally the food is fantastic because I only go to places I love to eat because I'm a fat kid at heart. And other folks book them for catering events in their organizations as well. So literally it has an economic impact is what I'm saying. The only tools you need to execute an Undoing Racism workshop in person is space, enough chairs for everyone to sit in a big circle, an easel, and a flip chart with multicolored markers, and a wall that when they tear off the paper, they can stick it up on the wall. That's all the technology you need to run a workshop. Grassroots, community-based organizing, training. Virtually, you just need Zoom.
How many people at any one training session? How many people?
The smallest workshop I've personally run was about 18 people because that's who showed up and who registered. The largest I've been in was when I went to Austin. There was 47 of us, but that included the trainers. They say when you get past 50, it's hard to get everybody to contribute. So you don't want to, and of course, if you're sitting in a big circle and there's 50 people, you're yelling across the room to speak to each other. So generally, I think the sweet spot in person would be between 25 and 35 people comfortably, plus the trainers, the 3 trainers. If you're doing it virtually, you see how the 8 of us can see each other on the screen at one time? Mm-hmm. Apparently, Zoom supports up to 29 squares on the screen. And so they generally say, we want to keep it to the number of people we can see on the screen at one time, because when you got to scroll to see people, you're actually leaving people out from the experience. Like you're not able to, get everybody together. So generally in a virtual format, somewhere between 20 and 25 would be ideal.
And is the price basically the same for the virtual version?
I believe it is.
Okay.
But you can ask Mayor LaChapelle what it cost the city to do the last 2 she did, since she was the one that actually paid for it.
Okay.
Now, to the other question you asked about the $10,000 budget, I believe that your mayor will sponsor additional workshops without you having to use your budget for that. I believe she will because she believes in it. The other thing is, Jan, you asked about books. A scholar named Dr. Daryl Wing Su wrote a phenomenal book, Asian psychologist, wrote a phenomenal book called Race Talks. I referenced it in my dissertation. I love the book because there's a whole chapter just dedicated to helping white people understand white racial identity development. There's a whole section that talks about the history of racism. It introduces a term that I adopted that I love. They called it Eurocentric monoculturalism. This idea that even though we claim we want to be, the place where everybody comes to, give us your tired, give us your hungry, give us your, the New Lazarus poem on the sonnet on the base of the Statue of Liberty. Even though we espouse those values, this notion of the melting pot means you melt your identity and I melt my identity into what we call America. What we're really doing is whitewashing everybody into one way of doing. Can you quantify it? How many degrees you got? What's your net worth? How big is your budget? How many people report to you? Where do you vacation? Do you have a vacation home? We do that. We quantify and marginalize everybody and reduce them down to objects. That's a part of American culture. And so by understanding these concepts, by understanding the lens and beginning to say, how do we recognize that even though Deb and Rebecca and Patty may be all people of European descent, They may actually have different cultures they come from. If some of you are Polish, heard that. If some of you are German, if some of you are Celtic by background, Italian, and oh, by the way, all Black people are not the same. So how do we recognize our diversity and see our humanity? This book allows you to learn how to facilitate dialogues around race. And it's a book that anyone can read, but it was written by a scholar, so it has all the citations in it, just in case you want to get the additional materials referenced in the book. Race
Who is
Talk.
that by again?
Derald, D-E-R-A-L-D, Derald Wing, W-I-N-G, Sue, S-U-E, Derald Wing Sue. It's been a few years now, but Race Talks is the name of the book. Phenomenal book. Also, there's a website, 1000conversations.org. I was giving a talk in Ithaca, New York, about 3 hours away from Rochester back in June. And they invited me to speak to them during their 1000 Conversations forum. Basically, they picked different places throughout the community to hold a monthly conversation around different topics. And they had a live band perform. The director of sustainability for the city of Ithaca was who invited me. He was organizing or hosting this particular one. So he gave updates on some of the work he was doing. The band performed whatever. And then they had me come up and speak for 20 minutes about my work in Rochester and about how that work would lend itself to sustainability in the jobs and the infrastructure development space. That was the topic for that particular month. But the idea of saying over the next 24 months or over the next 36 months, we're going to adopt this 1000 conversations framework, and we're going to go to every corner of the community around every issue in the community, and we're going to just have open conversation. That will be huge for Easthampton because it's not a physically big place. So you can go to every corner and every nook and every cranny, you know, from Corsello Butcheria with 5 people in there talking to the mills, right? You can literally go some of everywhere and have these conversations in homes or encourage them online or at 50 Payson Avenue and literally take and capture what comes out of those conversations. There's a tool called StoryCorps that records conversations and stories and save them so you all understand what I'm saying. I see the head nods. So you can film these conversations and eventually extract transcripts from it and do art projects if you wanted to, pull in snippets and ideas and quotes from these conversations and make a mural that goes somewhere on the side of somebody's building. This is just me playing right around with thoughts based on what you can do with this, but it should bring your community closer together. Those are actionable. Those are things that you all can sponsor a few of and turn it over to the community and say, now you all, who wants to host the next one? Mo Belliveau at the chamber should host one, right? Who else? Trying to think about who else I know. Easthampton City Arts can host one. Pasqualina, she can host one about arts and culture and history or whatever. So I think that the possibilities are endless as to how you all can bring people together around different ideas and issues and begin to use that as sources of inspirations to build a CRC level strategic plan. You all should be able to say over the next 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years, based on the horizon you're interested in, these are our 4 different areas we're going to focus on. I'm not going to dictate them to you because once you hear something, you're going to get stuck on it. But you can say these are the 3 or 4 areas we're going to focus on over the next 3, 4, or 5 years. And for each area, we want to have 2 goals, 1 goal, 3 goals. You don't want 15 goals in every area because you'll never get it done. You can then say, what are the strategies we're going to do to achieve those goals? And you can say, we're not going to do all 4 in 1 year. We're going to focus on these 2 pillars or anchors and goal 2 over here and goal 1 over here. Let's come up with some projects. Let's get them going. What resources do we need to do it? What time horizon do we need to execute it? Because based on time and resources needed, you can then say, hey, Mayor, $10,000 isn't enough. We need to be at $18,000 to really pull this off. Or we can do it with 7, take the other 3 and do a big event at the end of the year and celebrate all that we did with the 7,000. What metrics do you use to measure your effectiveness? Number of people that shows up, number of people that learn, number of projects kicked off organically in the community, dollars raised, policies changed, the number of policies changed. How do you measure your effectiveness? That should be in your strategic framework. It should be informed by this anti-racist lens that we're cultivating together. Is that helpful?
Amazing.
That's helpful. I think that's helpful. It also, for those on the subcommittee forum, it's, I think we're also hearing acknowledgements of that our ideas are on the right path, but we'll share that out later. Let me be quiet now.
I told Rebecca I was yours tonight, so pick my brain as much as you want. Ask any questions, and Rebecca, tell me when my time is up because I don't want to keep you all night.
Well, I think in collaboration with others, you know, and in some ways we'd like to not make our meetings too long. So it may be we'd like to see about some rest of our agenda items. I think that you had indicated, Dr. Campbell, that you did want to stay with us for our meeting, so, and see what we were doing. So you're most welcome. If I had a question, it's whether, in fact, there is a debrief in the works. I think you suggested there is. Maybe we don't know a date in terms of follow-up to the Undoing Racism.
Correct. I'm ready for you. We just got to figure out the date and whether we want to do it virtually or in person, so I can plan to be with you one way or the other.
Got my eyes open. So, you know, I don't know how you're feeling, Deb, but we do have a few other things to accomplish, and we're already at 7:14.
Okay, so just one last check. Anybody have any last comments, questions for Dr. Campbell before we move on?
I just have one.
Jan?
And it's kind of off the subject a little bit, but if Dr. Campbell's going to be around for a little while, I think someone needs to take him up on the ridge, on the mountain, so he can see a site like what's behind Rebecca.
Oh, yes, so I didn't
like
explain.
Around with an oxbow.
Right, I didn't explain Easthampton right there, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So this is Whoville.
That's right. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Well, I'm impressed with how much you know about our city. I'm impressed, and the people in it.
Same here.
I'm impressed.
I'd
So
like to say I have hiking sticks in the back of my minivan, so
Oh, good.
I can shimmy up there.
I was ready to go up on Mount Tom until I heard y'all had snakes up there. But
Listen, my daughter and I have climbed up the side because I live right over here by it, and yeah, you'll be fine.
So what you all don't know about me, so you've heard that I've been coming to Easthampton since October of last year. But from April 3rd to July 3rd, I was a resident at the D Hotel in Holyoke. And so for those 3 months, I was spending all of my time between Rochester, Holyoke, and Easthampton.
Oh, wow.
So I spent a lot of time in your community.
Nice. Nice.
So you were saying you were there for 3 months. You were going back and forth to Rochester, but what were you doing? I'm sorry.
I was working on the rapid recovery plan for Easthampton and Holyoke. And so I just told the hotel, like, let's just book a 3-month stay at the hotel, and I want to be able to come and go when I need to. So I was there for 3 months.
So
Wow.
if you remember that report entitled Blueprint Easthampton.
No, not that report.
Not that one? Oh, different
No,
one?
that was a 10-page report. What I'm talking about is the 54-page report that I just finished writing and gave to y'all 2 weeks ago.
Is that the discovery report? No.
No, that's a 10-page report I did back in the fall of last year.
We didn't know about that report, but in any
Yeah,
case.
we don't always get what the mayor gets, so.
Yeah, she doesn't.
I think
That's another story.
Yeah, I know Akine was given the discovery report last year, the 10-pager. And I know it was posted to the city's website. There was a page on the city's website. This new report is on the state's website, the Department of Housing and Community Development's website.
Okay.
So that's where you would download that from, because they were actually my customer.
And so that 54-page report is called, does it have a title? Or
Let me just pull it up. It's easier to just show you. Let me see. I think I can share screen. Is that accurate?
I think if I make you a co-host, then that would be accurate. Why not? Let's do that.
All right. Can you see this?
Yes.
Recovery plan.
This is your rapid recovery plan. This is the document that I was saying, 54 pages.
And you just gave that to the mayor recently? Okay.
So this
we
is
should,
about this program.
so we should ask her for copies of it, or what
I
do you
gave it, when I submitted it to the Department of Housing and Community Development. That's who hired me to do it. So it's on their website as a downloadable document.
Housing and
All right.
community development. Okay.
And is Brad Riley in charge of that, or is he?
No,
No.
so the administrator in charge of the program was Elizabeth Hahn, or Emmy Hahn.
Okay. Well, thank you very, very much
Incredible, thank you.
for all this information. It's very inspirational and exciting and informative and very, very, very grateful.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
I'll let you get back to your meeting.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, we'll move on to, we'll turn the floor over to Myra, who's going to talk to us about Native American Heritage Month.
Hi, Myra, can I just say, I was able to push my evening appointment, but from 7 only till 7:30. So I will have to buzz out at 7:30, but I really want to hear what Myra has to say, so.
Okay.
And I think the mayor's, just very quickly, the thing about the budget seems pretty self-explanatory to everybody.
Right, I think we got a correspondence via email, so we can put that in.
Great, thanks, Myra.
No problem. I created a brief presentation. I thought maybe it would be helpful for us to view. Don't know if anyone wants to share it as I speak.
Would you prefer to share it yourself, or would you like me to share it? Looks like you gave me.
You can share it. It's fine. Less clicks for me.
Okay. All right. I'm going to put that in presentation mode, and then here. Okay. And I'm going to leave the control open so that you'll see gray areas. But here's slide 1.
Okay, so this discussion, this acknowledgement, it has several reasons that it's being brought up. One is an acknowledgement that November is Native American Heritage Month, and perhaps for those who are viewing, and for some in the room, I can quickly read off that this month is a time to celebrate rich and diverse cultures, traditions, and histories, and acknowledge the important contributions of Native people. Heritage Month is also an opportune time to educate the general public about tribes, also to raise general awareness about the unique challenges Native or Indigenous people have faced historically, and also presently, and ways in which people, Native citizens, have worked to conquer these challenges. And I'll let you hit the next one. So I just wanted to say a lot that I've been learning, and through my own background, been learning a common theme is that there is more emphasis on the historical context of Indigenous people. And we have opportunities in our community and within the region to also delve into contemporary issues facing Native residents and citizens. So with that theme of being able to delve into the issues and have experiences, there are things that are happening locally, and I wanted to highlight those. It's no means a exhaustive list, but currently there is, and these are in your presentation, there'll be clickable links where you can see there's currently two simultaneous exhibitions. One is happening in Easthampton, and it's the theme is showcasing life and resiliency of people and their journey. So that can be located at 50 Arrow Gallery, which is in the Eastbrook building, and it's being held until December 11th. There's also an exhibition in Holyoke at 358 Dwight Street, which is going to run through December 18th. And if you do click on it, you'll be able to see the link to the exhibit. I'll continue on again. So this one is a bit, so I'll just, full disclosure, this one is a bit personal. This group, the Native American Intertribal Council of Western Massachusetts, was founded by my uncle, who has passed away, in his endeavor to have a closer connection with culture, have a closer connection with contemporary issues, and also learn language, etc. So they're hosting an event in Springfield, which is honoring International Children's Day. And we've seen in the news recently about Native children that were lost in the Native schools in Canada and the Americas. And I believe partially this event will be touching on that. There'll be a presenter who is a professor at Springfield College and is also on the committee for rights of Indigenous people. In the link below, I didn't know at the time, there's a regional summary for you to be able to look at, and it's written by, I really didn't mean to center myself at all, but it just ended up happening. It's written by my cousin, who happens to be a member of the Native American Intertribal Council of Western Mass. So it's a way that my uncle and my grandfather lived on. So you can peruse through that. There's an event happening tonight and throughout the region of all the ways that we, as a committee and individuals, can delve into issues. And before I get to the next one, I just want to say, I think it's important that as a committee that we do try and attend different cultural events. We had the opportunity to attend, Emily and I, to attend the Hispanic Heritage Month celebration at the high school. And it's a way to get involved and for us to be able to be present and represented. So that's my encouragement to everyone to go out. And then also, this was not just an acknowledgement, but an ongoing discussion within the arts community, and I had several discussions and related to as a committee. Actually, we can just go to the next slide and then that will set it. Oh, okay. So there was actually, it closed, I believe, yesterday, if I'm correct with the advertisement. There is an event called Save the Man, which was an art installation that's put on by Easthampton City Arts. It's part of the Easthampton Poet Laureate program. And it just recently closed, but there was some writing and some inscriptions which at the exhibit, which I believe called for some discussion on our part. I don't know if everyone knows, but there's just like a 30-second clip if you want to play.
Okay.
Rebecca, I promise it will be really brief.
I might have to unshare and reshare. You're probably seeing black right now, correct?
Nope, I
No,
can
it's
You see it? Oh, do you see it? I can play it from right here then.
Yep,
Now,
perfect.
the next question is whether I shared sound. I do not recall, but let's give it a. Did you hear that? Did you hear
No.
it? No.
No,
So
we don't.
I'm going to unshare and make sure I shared sound.
Okay, so this
Okay.
is just context information, and then something that I think can be relevant to us.
Okay. So, and I guess I can make it big. Here we are.
In the space right now, we have about 2,000 orange finder flags. Each flag represents at this point about 4 Indigenous children for every 1 flag that's been found. So it's about 8,000, I think, at this point. They suspect it's like 1.6 million children from both the US and Canada who were taken and taken to these schools. I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of potential children that are still missing and unaccounted for.
Okay, so that was an ongoing exhibit.
Sorry about that.
No problem. That was an ongoing exhibit in Easthampton that was partially, I guess, paid for by Easthampton as it was part of the Easthampton City Arts and Easthampton Poet Laureate. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Project. However, over the course of its running, there was some writings on the exhibit, which were part of it as a share and a reflect moment. But some of them were, in knowing that this exhibit, I take it as like something sacred. It's honoring the lives of lost children. It's honoring, it's something sacred. It's something that I believe that we would hold with personally, I would hold with dignity. So as a community, and the CRC, I wanted to let you know some of the writings and some of this discussion and dialogue that's been happening in the art space. There was someone who was going to come to public speak, but then had another engagement, so they weren't able to attend. But we can just go ahead and share the next one.
Okay. Do you see the current slide now?
Yep.
Okay.
We're on
Good.
4.
Okay.
Local
Good.
opportunities. All right. So the question before we see the pictures is, how as a committee can we create dialogue and discussion that encourages acknowledgement, reflection, and action? I wrote this during lunch break. I'll confess. When there are actions that create welcoming spaces. So the question is, if to be relevant in our space and to acknowledge, hurtful things, what can we as a committee do? Of course, we don't have all the answers at the moment, but I do have some other ideas, but I just wanted to share it with you, and then create a space for a dialogue about it, a brief one, because we have so much on the agenda. Okay, so
Is there another? Okay.
Yes, there should be.
Okay.
All right. So on the door, of this very sacred space, there were some writings, and it's encouraged to write. It says share and reflect your thoughts. It's an interactive exhibit. I happened to see it last week, and these are pictures from my terrible phone, and some of them were erased away, but this remained still on there, and says this shows how important flags are, and I agree America did a really good job dealing with Indians. So people hate us for it. I'm glad you realize it was good. And this was in response to an exhibit that's with honoring lost children, simply a memorial for Indigenous people of color. So I've found myself perplexed, but I won't give my response yet. I'll just show you just one another picture,
Next.
which is the last one. Yeah, okay. And it says, well, what about all the other natives who were slaughtered by natives? Where's their exhibit? It was good. Wait, it was good. Okay, perhaps that came from where's their exhibit? So these are things that are happening on open city spaces, city-sponsored events or city-sponsored art exhibits. And I just wanted for our community to be aware that there are discussions currently happening about what happened at the space. And I think our committee is poised to be able to make, one, acknowledge that this is happening in an exhibit that calls on the community, one, to be welcome, two, to reconcile with its past, three, to have moments of reflection of, the US's complex history, and in a very, sacred space and sacred way. And it leaves some people and some people like myself at pause, not to say that we censor people's thoughts, but how can we develop people's social intelligence in a way that is cognizant that there's other spaces, and that how this can set a tone for a city. You just had Easthampton open mills for 2 days, and the visitors and residents of the city are seeing these messages about that, I would say, are in a spirit of, well, not in a spirit of love, in a spirit of kind of hatefulness, that aren't cognizant of others' feelings. So that's my 2 cents. And I don't want to dominate, but just allow one to acknowledge that this happened, to in the Easthampton community, and then allow for any comments or thoughts, and then I can share with you some other conversations that I've had. And that's the end of the slideshow.
Okay.
Myra, thank you. I feel like we're going to give this whole presentation short shrift because of the time, but very short shrift, but it's really, really interesting. Thank you.
Yes.
I would be real interested to hear your suggestions and thoughts, Myra.
Well, my thoughts were, I did speak to the, sorry, I hear people. I did hear.
Oh, you're frozen on us.
To one of the artists, one of the frozen.
Yeah, we didn't catch any of that. You
Okay.
froze on us.
Let me see if that works. Does that work?
Mhm.
So far.
Okay, well, I just want to say I did reach out to one of the poet laureates who happened to be in the space when I visited another exhibit, who was happy, well, who expressed that it would be helpful if this was acknowledged by the city in some way, because it hadn't been acknowledged, even though it was like partially a city funded art installation / memorial. So one just thought we should acknowledge that. In speaking to another person in the art space, they encouraged us to have dialogue and have one of our partners and community members be the art community. So be part of the art community and acknowledge that, although perhaps I can perceive this writing in some way, other people have dismissed it. So could be a topic of ongoing conversation and dialogue that exists in the divide in the art community in Easthampton. Not that I'm a member, but our group may be able to have a what's the word a level of participation and being able to have or hold dialogue amongst different groups that feel different ways. So I don't have any answers, but I just wanted to acknowledge that in that space and in this month that it occurred.
Thank you,
for
Maya.
sharing.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Right. Hopefully I won't freeze again.
Thank you, Myra. Rebecca,
Anyone-
this is one of those times that's good to sit with it before responding.
I think, we have to think deeply about this. I love that shirt.
Right. So maybe it's something we can circle back to.
Mhm.
Well, we keep it on the agenda. We might feel like, that we'll run out of time, but let's keep it.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you, Myra, very much. Okay. At this point, we'll move on to number 7 on our agenda, the action points from our strategic planning sessions with Derek Dean. Just as an FYI for Dr. Campbell, Derek Dean is from the Department of Justice, and we just went through several sessions with him to help us recreate a strategic plan. And anyway, so this is kind of following up on some of those action plans. Myra and Emily are going to report back to us regarding a meeting with Lindsay Mailer about the possibility of a tutorial for the city website and the possibility of creating short videos of city committee introductory sessions. And do either of you want to take the lead on that? Margaret, Myra?
I can talk about the website, and then Emily, I'll leave the portions about planning to you, because I know you took copious notes when we all met. So in regards to the website collaboration, although we were eagerly anticipating some forward progress and partnerships, we have resulted pretty much in just correspondence. No, that's not true. So we started having correspondence with Lindsay Mailer. She got us just to be brief, she got us in contact with, sorry, I need to minimize the screen. she got us eventually in contact with, oh, I have to find her name, Karen, the systems administrator, Karen Camhort. And we did have a meeting, a lunchtime meeting, and it was a positive meeting in which I thought we were seeing eye to eye on the benefit of tutorials. We were given an action step to speak with Lindsay because she rather spearheaded the website. And unfortunately, we were going to meet again, and then that did not happen. And Karen let us know that she didn't have time to commit. Despite having the positive meeting, she didn't have time to commit to developing the tutorials or the logistics. And she suggested we follow up with Easthampton Media, and Emily has reached out to them as of November 8th, but hadn't heard back. So the idea was well received, but unfortunately, people didn't have time or resources to commit to it, even though it was indicated that it was welcomed and a good idea.
Okay.
So we will await hearing back from Easthampton Media and see if they can be a partner.
Okay. Emily, did you have anything to add to that regarding the short videos?
Nothing to add yet, unfortunately. I feel like there could be a few more resources to contact after I hear back from Easthampton, for sure. But oh dear. Yeah, so nothing really to add about that. Yeah.
Did you
thanks,
say that?
Myra,
Did you say that you would be pursuing it with Easthampton Media? Is that what you said?
Yes,
Okay.
I did. And I only a few days ago. Yeah, so yeah, I haven't heard back yet.
Okay.
I'll bug by the end of the week or next week if I still haven't heard anything.
See what we can accomplish that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So just by way of background information for anyone who's interested, we as a committee were excited about this new, I forget what it's called, feature on our city website, our revised city website, that enabled people to basically sign up for notifications of city happenings and events. And we were really excited about, because one of our goals has always been to better connect to the community with our government. And there's just so many times that we've encountered a desire to try to reach our community. Like we've discussed so many times the frustrations where, you know, we don't have the ability to rely on newspaper communication like we used to. Like people just don't subscribe to the paper the way they did before, or we can't completely rely on Facebook or some of these other social media platforms either. So like we're frustrated by a source of a way of reaching the community in a broad way. So we were excited about this new feature being added to this new city website that would enable people to basically sign up to be kept informed. And so we've been pursuing opportunities to try to work with the city on that, build on that, develop that further, bring it to the community, publicize it, all sorts of things, like looking for opportunities to make that work better for our community as a whole, you know, for a variety of reasons, purposes. Okay, so thank you, Myra and Emily, for that update. Moving on, one of our other objectives was to come up with a list of groups, organizations, government agencies, including arts and cultural organizations, schools, activists, advocates, that we would like to compile for outreach, that we want to reach out to establish relationships with. And I was to compile everyone's thoughts and ideas on all that in the list that you would come up with. So kudos to Rebecca, who put together a very extensive, exhaustive list of just all of that for 2 pages long of all kinds of resources. So thank you, Rebecca. But I didn't hear from anyone else in the committee yet, but I'm sure we will. So anyway.
Can you distribute
Yes.
Rebecca's list?
Yes, I will do that. Or Rebecca can do that. One of us will do it. Would you rather do it?
You might want to look at it. Well, I don't mind doing it, and I'll make sure to put I don't remember. I might have included Dr. Campbell. I don't remember because I put a lot of people on there. But he should be on there too. But these are people to reach out to when we need input, we need assistance, we need, to organize events. We need, anyway, it's good.
Yeah, it's a great list.
Okay, so I'll distribute the list.
Couldn't we also use that list, for example, to the undoing racism trainings to get people from those groups, et cetera, to attend? Yes?
Possibly. You'll look at the list. Look at the list and see. Yeah. Basically she's suggesting that we want to make contact with these people so that we would have partners in our work going forward. What I wondered is we don't have on this list, there aren't any LGBTQ organizations. And I was wondering if anyone was aware of specific organizations that we might want to be adding to the list to include those groups.
I know there's of a few. I don't want to mention them by name by fear of messing up their names. But I can look at the list, and I honestly didn't remember this task, so I can add to it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
I think right. Well, I might put, and when I send the email, I will try to remind what Derek Dean said about this. And his question was like, if XYZ happened or this problem occurred, who would you reach out to? So yeah, you thought of somebody, Myra. No,
it activated in my brain when you said that.
Yeah, so I'll send that out. I will send that.
Okay. So then if people have groups that they want to add to the list, do you want to just send it to Rebecca? Okay. That'd be great. Is that okay with you, Rebecca?
That's fine.
Okay. Honestly. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay. Patty is no longer with us. And I think we all saw from her email communication, she just sent it tonight. So maybe you didn't see it, but she was in touch with the mayor asking about funding for us going forward and the latest information on that. And so I don't know if I'm going to have this exactly right, but I think it said basically that the mayor was planning to have available for us a budget of $10,000 to encompass the months of January through May. I'm pretty sure she said. So that's her intention at this point in time and hoping to make that happen. And the money would need to be used in that time frame. So good to know. And hopefully that will be finalized, I would think, fairly soon. Any comments, questions?
Well, Maya and I and Jan met right after the last meeting, or the last meeting. And we had talked about an idea to have different neighborhood gatherings to help neighbors meet each other and us meet the people in different different areas, sections, areas of Easthampton, and it sort of sounds a little bit like it could be like the listening sessions that Dr. Campbell mentioned. And basically just like, social and meet the CRC to know what we're about and, to hear about issues. And, we didn't think it would cost very much to have, pie and cider available and renting a tent or borrowing one of the city tents, moving it to a location on a certain date. So that was an idea we were going to talk with you guys about. And we didn't, so sorry if I jumped ahead on the agenda. I can't look at things on my phone at the same time.
So was that discussion happening under the umbrella of the subcommittee discussions about the forum?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
So some of our thinking of Jan and Emily, we know we have an idea to have like a heavier conversation in the future about difficult discussions and difficult conversations within the community. But prior to doing that, we thought it's important to build community and letting neighbors know each other. We know there's a disconnect of people just knowing one another in general, but thinking of a way that we can get people without the heaviness of conversation to join each other first, to get to know neighbor, to get to know neighbor. And so that's when I was like, we were kind of having the same vibe, Dr. Campbell, of, having, getting people to connect, and not necessarily first before we have events and forums that have a heavy conversation look. And it also kind of gives exposure to the CRC. And one thing where we might get some attendance of the public, notice the public is missing, is if a person hosts like a neighborhood get to know you. It can be at a specific person's house, and that person can invite friends and their neighbors, etc. And we can get to move around and get to meet people that way. I also learned that Emily knows everyone who walks dogs in her neighborhood. Oh, sorry. I saw your finger up, Dr. Campbell.
Yeah, I was going to say Margaret and Rebecca has a tool that can support this event that they learned during Undoing Racism training called a culture share. And as you invite folks to this social, you can ask everyone to bring one item that's near and dear to them that they can be ready to just talk about at some point, whether it's a book or a little figurine or, a photo of their favorite recipe from their grandma, whatever. They can bring something with them so that it becomes a conversation starter for people who've never been with each other.
Right. Yep.
That's an organizing tool that you now have available to you because you all did that in Undoing Racism training.
I love this idea. I think this is awesome. This neighbor getting to know neighbor.
One of the things we also discussed with that is having, I think Emily and Myra, if you remember, we discussed sort of some media attention around it, having Channel 5 cable access to do some videotaping of, and being able to show that so that people would have an idea of what's going on, and gain some interest that way as well.
I have a pragmatic question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this anticipated to happen? I mean, what about COVID? I'm not going to a lot of people. I don't have groups of people
Right.
in my house that aren't kind of in my group. You know what I mean? Or whatever,
Right.
my 10 people or something.
Right.
Yeah, we were gonna do it outside under tents. It looks like the city owns some pretty nice big tents, you know, behind their main building, and I thought we could borrow them. And, you know, of course, when it's really cold, we may not be able to do this, but starting up in the spring for sure. We were kind of optimistic that we could do one in the fall, but our last meeting didn't happen. And yeah, so yeah.
And so part of your vision is thinking that we could even ask like people that we know through the community to host these types of things at their home or their front yard or whatever, and invite their own neighbors and start this culture of like front yard social life, socializing,
Yeah,
and bringing the community together. That would be awesome. That'd be great.
Yeah, and I'm happy to host the first one. Yeah, so yeah,
That'd be great.
yeah, my front yard's not terribly big, but my backyard's big, or down the street a little bit. One of the front yards might be big. We'll figure it. Yeah.
I love this idea of like promoting. I've had this in my head from my own neighborhood of promoting front yard activities, like even having, like I've talked to my neighbors about this, like having like a campfire in the front yard, and just so that people would feel like so welcome and inviting. It would be inviting for people to just stop in or walk by and join. Like we're such a backyard community, you know, where we hide in our backyards, and to the extent that we can move ourselves to the front yard, kind of like the old days of a front porch, move us to the front yard to be engaging with the people that are in our community and create relationships more easily. That would be awesome.
Emily, are you going to pull your grill out?
What was that?
Are you going to pull your grill out?
Yeah, I can do that.
Well, with a grill and a fire pit, we may be able to do it in cold weather.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
S'mores and hot cider or something. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I'd love to do it too.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you, during the, if many of you remember, basically 11 years ago, 10 years ago, here when we had that storm and knocked power out for us for a week.
Yeah.
Well, I had so many trees continue to go down in my backyard that I took all my cooking stuff. I had this big piece of tin I'm on my driveway. So I'm cooking. Could be a pot roast, could be anything, because I have these Dutch ovens and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it really, so many people walking their dogs or whatever else will come by and stop and like think like, how can you make all this stuff? You know, and just having conversation with people. I didn't know who a lot of them were, but they lived around the area. So you know, like you said, that front porch, that front, you know, because I think in our community, my one neighbor a few doors down keeps saying, we should have a block party.
Yeah.
Maybe we should, you know, and I mean, he's a musician, you know, I play, you know, we have, you know, it's one of those things, and I know he'd have neighbors or friends from other places would be there anyway. But you know, like you said, when we were knocking that idea around, it just made me think of places doing things like that.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm a big believer in aspect of media. Is where when I first went to undergrad, that's what I went for, communications. So for me, getting things out there where people can see it, I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
That'd be awesome.
So this is an official agenda item, but I can piggyback after what Dr. Campbell said, and maybe we should be our first experiment and have our own get together. Because I don't think I think I've met Deb in Big Y. Jan, I've met for the first time. Margaret, I don't think I've ever seen you.
No, we've never met in person.
Yeah, so maybe we can be our first.
Right.
We've been
And
in
Jan,
this.
you just set yourself up because you said you cook, so.
I said, I thought Dr. Campbell brought that up, you know? Oh yeah, I was talking. Hey, listen, it's been a long day. You're right, I was talking about cooking.
I love to cook, but you also said you like to take out your Dutch oven. So
Hey,
Right.
you know, that's why I always have 5 or 6 bags of charcoal at all times. And about 6 propane tanks. And yeah, my wife makes, because Dr. Campbell talked about the South. A backyard kind of looks like that.
got you. So I got a level with you. My wife would tell you she can't park her car in the garage, but it's not because of the stuff we have in storage. It's apparently because I have 2 smokers and 2 grills in there.
It's not enough.
It's not enough. The big smoker, I can actually smoke 4 to 6 turkeys at the same time.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
I can smoke 12 slabs of ribs in there at one time.
Oh boy.
Wow.
But if I'm just doing a roast or something for me and Ashley, I don't need to fire up the big old smoker. So I got a smaller one so that I can put, a beef brisket in there. That's why you need 2 smokers.
Wow.
So, and I got the 2 grills because I'm the baby of 9. And when I'm hosting the family over, I don't want to just put 6 hamburgers on. I want to be able to, get both grills going because they're,
Nice.
small Webbers. So it's practical,
Nice.
That's why she can't park in the garage, right? So I can level with you, Jan.
Nice. Very nice. Okay, well, we have lots to continue to talk about for our upcoming meetings. It's now 8 o'clock, so maybe we should try to wrap it up for tonight. Do we want to talk about our next meeting date?
Are we still gonna do it the second Tuesday?
That's where we were. At one point, we were focused on the second Tuesday of the month.
So I have a question about that. So when all these wonderful ideas came up about inviting Dr. Campbell to the meeting, we thought about inviting the mayor to the meeting and to talk about her vision for Easthampton and possibly her vision for us, her view on the work that the Undoing Racism folks are doing. And, she even mentioned to me the idea of proposing a communications director that might help with those communication problems that we're seeing. I'd love to have her tell us about that if that's true. Now, she couldn't attend. Why? Because apparently she has to attend the school committee meetings. So we conflict. Maybe Myra knows when those are, the second and fourth Tuesdays, or maybe I need to look at the agendas for them.
Wasn't the issue though that Gabby could only come to the second Tuesday?
Yes, she had told us most recently that she's not available on the first and third Tuesdays. That's what Gabby said.
Right, so that leaves us with the second or the fourth Tuesday. Okay, so the second is the school committee and the fourth is the school committee, so that, okay.
Let's see, how many Tuesdays do we have? This month actually has 5 Tuesdays.
I also have another question. What is Patty's? She seems to need to leave, and as a co-chair, I think that we need to make it so that she can stay for the whole meeting.
I asked her about that, and her answer to me at the time, which was a couple weeks ago, is that every Tuesday now she's going to have to leave at some time, 7:30 or whatever. It's not just certain Tuesdays.
Could you do a doodle? Let me ask, could we, I feel like one of the reasons we started to meet on Tuesdays was some people could only meet on Tuesdays. And I don't know if Patty was that person but I'm not wed to Tuesdays either. How about a doodle poll for something, because we're not getting our full membership here.
Okay. So to consider a different day of the week is what you're suggesting.
Mhm.
Does everybody else want to consider another day of the week? Is that
Is
a
that more
viable
good?
thing for people? Okay,
Emma?
we'll put it out there.
It depends.
I mean, I guess I could do 2 surveys. I could do a survey for what days of the week can you meet? And then do a survey for some specific dates.
Okay. I'll try my best. I think I'm the only one here with young kiddos and sports schedules and school schedules. So a new sports season's upon me. I'll get back to you.
All right.
Okay, I was gonna say, if anyone knows right off the bat right now, certain nights of the week that you absolutely can't do it.
I guess for me, I have a lot of clients I see once I get home from school, and it's pretty much sort of set over the years. So that's why this Tuesday kind of worked out for me.
Tuesday
I
works.
see someone almost right before I see this, and like I said, in my night now, would be, you normally wouldn't see anybody else, but that's what, for me, that's kind of.
Okay.
So Tuesdays are good for you, Jan, and you don't really see other nights working well?
Not well.
Okay.
I mean, like I said.
Well, that's important to know. That's good to know. Thank you. Then we shouldn't probably go and reinvent that wheel. I don't know what Patty, I mean, can we meet at 5:30 if Patty has to leave at 7? You know what I'm saying? Is that, I don't know. I'm just trying to.
One other thing, this isn't on the agenda, but one other thing that I feel like the need to talk about is the fact that several of us have our terms ending at the end of December.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure where everybody stands with that and what their plans are. But that's such a big change, and it's coming up quick.
Right.
I know myself, I thought my term ended in the summer, and I found out it doesn't. It ends December 31st, because I guess I stepped into someone else's
Right.
shirt. So anyway, I just say that's another thing that's kind of looming for all of us is potential change.
I have a question. I know I saw that and I wasn't sure. Is there a way of doing that online?
Responding?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can,
Yeah.
Lindsay said you could send her an email.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lindsay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's Lindsay's last name?
Mailer.
Mailer. So
It's on the form.
Okay.
It's on the form. It says you can send it in or tell her by email.
Okay. So is it L Mailer at Easthampton?
Easthamptonma.gov.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Anyway, we should all talk about that at some point too, like just to be prepared and to have a plan for what's going to happen with our membership. I feel I guess we need to communicate with the mayor on all that because yeah.
So I went poking around and I found a calendar, school committee meeting schedule, and I'm not sure if it's kept up to date, but I can share what I found. If I could share screen and show you what I found.
Okay.
That would help, because it looks to me like, as you're saying, second and fourth Tuesdays, but it doesn't look like that's true for November. Of course, we have Thanksgiving coming up, and it's not true for December. So I don't know if, and we have 5 Tuesdays in November. So I don't know if that impacts our thinking. Do you think a 5th Tuesday might be a good target?
So to go with Tuesday, November 30th for our next meeting?
Was my thought, yeah.
I could do that.
Okay, wait, I'm seeing some thumbs up. Then that puts us in a little bit of a weird place for December. But I mean, just because I'm assuming we wouldn't want to have a meeting 2 weeks in a row.
But December 14th is the second Tuesday. So it'd be 2 weeks later.
Okay, so, okay, even though that's a school committee time. Okay, so would we maybe want to do then Tuesday, November 30th, and then Tuesday, December 14th? Does that sound good?
Possibly, and you know, with permission, I'll reach out and see if the mayor can do the 30th.
That sounds good.
And maybe even say, if she can't, for example, what thoughts does she have? Because I'd really like to have her come. I'd really
Okay.
like her to talk about, you know, communication and whether she is thinking of hiring or at least asking the city council about more staff and whether she's got thoughts about more committee members and all of it.
Right, because I think we do need to have an idea of who's staying and who's not on the committee going forward and what needs to happen after all of that. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
And I think you're supposed to, answers need to be to them by the 29th, so she should have the information to know who's staying and who isn't, right? Okay. Okay, very good. We'll go with November 30th and then December 14th to finish out this year. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all very much. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
To adjourn.
Okay, let's see. Okay, we'll say, wait a minute, one more time. Who made the first? Okay, Jan,
Yeah.
motion to adjourn. Margaret seconded it.
Yes.
Okay. All right, we have a motion. It's been seconded. Let's do the roll call. As Rebecca
Yes, in favor.
instructs us.
Oh,
Okay.
yes. I thought you were calling on me.
Rebecca Vasa, yes. Emily Britton,
Yes, yes.
Margaret
Lucy?
Kirstein,
Yes.
Jan Norman,
Yes, indeed.
Myra Oyedemi,
Yes.
Deborah Lusniak, yes. Meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Care.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank
Bye
you,
now.
Dr. Campbell.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you all for
Campbell.
having me.
Indeed. Good to meet
Be
you.
well.
Good to meet you.
Likewise.
All right, thank you.